More than enough to let the light in. The way you're making me feel it's divine. It's enough to let it flow, let it be. 'Cause you're everything that I crave in this life. 'Cause we're everything we can find in another life. Take my hand and my promises, they're yours to be held, and I want you. I only want you. Keep my heart and my honor is yours to be held, and I want you. I only want you for the rest of my life. My life. For the rest of my life. You're in my sight and my mind. In the quiet and up front out loud. In the calm, in my spirit and the storm. 'Cause you're everything that I crave in this life. 'Cause we're everything we can't find in another life. Take my hand and my promises, they're yours to be held, and I want you. I only want you. Keep my heart and my honor is yours to be held, and I want you. I only want you for the rest of my life. For the rest of my life. For the rest of my life. For the rest of my life.
Well, hello. Welcome to the locker room. There we go. I'm Nancy, and new platform. It's a let's talk about it, let's figure it out, let's support each other platform. And as you notice, I'm not doing true crime. I got very depressed with that, very depressed. And I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't find information. I was having a hard time finding new stories to cover. Hello, H. Davis. Hello. All right. So, but yeah, and I couldn't do it. I had to take a break, and I saw some things happening on the YouTube streets. And I thought, oh my goodness, maybe things are going to change. And I talked myself into, like I said, I had watched a Dr. Phil episode, and it just triggered a spark in me and gave me the want to come back. And I want to be a let's talk about it platform. You know, if it bothers you, it bothers me. I'm here to support. I'm not here to condemn. You know, it's all about doing what's right. So today we're going to talk about bullying because, you know, there's many people that were bullied. I was bullied as a child. And thankfully I can say now that some of the people, my hair seems to be standing straight out. This weather is making it frizz. It's got just enough natural curl in it that when it's wet, it's curly. When it's dry, it's board straight, and right now it is frizzy. So anyway, we're going to talk about bullying. Like I said, I was bullied as a child, and it wasn't fun. My parents didn't believe me when I talked about it. The school didn't believe me when I talked about it. When I was in junior high, my junior high had 4 exits. And um, I was coming out of school one day, and there was a group of girls, and there was one at each exit. Thank you, H. Davis, for he says it was a great live last night. I really do appreciate that. It was a long live. I don't think tonight's going to be as long. And he said, I never got bullied but made fun of. Getting made fun of is a form of being bullied, but thank goodness nobody tried to harm you in what they were doing. Because I'm sure it hurt your feelings just as bad. I just don't get into true crime. I can understand why. I mean, it's hard to find information about it. How do we really know a lot of it's true? Because it's got to the point where on the YouTube streets, now I'm not putting any creator down at all, not a single creator. But it's got to the point where on some of the channels, there's conspiracies become fact. I mean, it doesn't make them true. It doesn't make what's being said true. But it's a conspiracy and a theory that's plausible enough that people go with it. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't get into any of the groups that were getting the information because to me it seemed like there were cliques. On the one side of the street, all the what they called the haters, I called them blue jays because a blue jay is absolutely beautiful, but they're mean as snot. Okay, so I called them blue jays, but it was the what they called the mean side of the street, the haters or whatever. Um, those people all kind of created a clique, and they were all telling the same stories, whether they were true or not. And then they got to where they were picking on other creators, and I didn't agree with that. And then on the green team, which was the side where what I found the true crime, those people were getting harassed by the people on the other side, and things that they were telling that I was believing as true because I was hearing it from more than one creator, they were being called out and out liars. If I tried to repeat it, there were times I was called an out and out liar. And the one that got me the most was the ice shooting. The last one that I did was the ice shooting. 2 days after I did that, I got ripped. I'm telling you, I got called an out and out liar. I was told that the gunman got hit by her car so hard that he dropped his weapon. Now, that didn't make any sense to me because you can see clearly that he didn't get hit. His phone that he was recording with, he hit the vehicle with that hand, and he reached over and shot her 2 or 3 more times in the face through the open window of her car. If he'd have dropped the weapon, he wouldn't have been able, and as fast as that happened, he wouldn't have been able to. So when somebody calls you a liar over something that's absolutely logical and makes total sense, and you can see it on video, I said, I'm not doing this. I'm not going down this road. My skin is not that thick. I'm sorry. So I just walked away. Just walked away. I mean, there were stories I wanted to cover, cases and stuff where they were going to be in court and watch court TV about it and things like that. But I gave it up. I give it up. We can find out the truth somewhere else, I guess, if it's meant for us to have it. So, but I want to talk about bullying because I was bullied. Like I was telling you the story, the four girls, they were standing outside of the school and I couldn't get out. Whichever door I tried to go to, there was somebody standing there and they would call the other girls around and they would, of course, we didn't have cell phones back then or anything. They'd just holler at each other. Or they could see through the doors, because it was like a straight shot through and you could see which door I was going to. Well, I went to the office because, my daddy was a police officer. I thought that the school office could at least call him and get him to come bring me home or something. Well, when I walked into the office, they said, "Oh, those girls aren't going to do anything to you. Just go home." I was afraid to go out of the building. How could I go home? Well, I did go out of the building, and the girls started trying. I said, "Whoa, wait a minute. We got school going on. Let this sit until the last day of school." And I said, "On the last day of school, if you guys still want to fight with me, I'll be here. I'll be here the last day of school. And what happens, happens." I told my parents about it. They didn't believe me. And after the last day of school, they pretty much left it alone. They still ribbed me and teased me and kept telling me, "You got 18 days, 22 days, whatever, how many days left for school, And on the last day of school, there was a fight. It started in front of the school. The school did nothing about it. It moved across the street into a grocery store parking lot and continued there. And I went into the grocery store and tried to get somebody in the grocery store to let me call my dad or to call the police or something. And they wouldn't do anything. They told me that they didn't accept fights in the store and they wanted me to leave the store. Well, I got out of the store and I managed to get home that afternoon. I got the squat beat out of me, but I made it home. And when I walked in, my dad was sitting at home. He said, "How was your fight today?" The police department had already told him about what had happened. He said, "How was your fight today?" I said, "I got the snot beat out of me." He said, "Well, you shouldn't have opened your big mouth." I hadn't opened my big mouth other than to say, "Let's take this till the last day of school." If I'd have taken the fight a month or 2 months before, I don't know what would have happened. Would I even have made it home? And I don't know what I did to those girls. But I'll tell you, one of them is a good friend of mine now on Facebook. We haven't seen each other since after, let's see, our sons were, I guess, maybe a year old when we saw each other the last time. And that son is 40. So, but yeah. One of the girls is, from the last time I heard, she's in jail because her and her dad got into a fight in a bar and something happened there. I wasn't there. I don't know. And the other girls, I don't know where they are or what they're doing. But they're not bullying me anymore. I'm not being bullied. So, bullying is a thing. And parents need to listen when a child says they're being bullied. Now, when my son was younger and they were teaching about bullying in school, he would come home from school and he said, "So-and-so was bullying me today at school." And I'd sit down and I'd talk with him. "What did so-and-so do?" "Well, he told me that I should be white. I shouldn't be brown." I said, "That's not bullying." I said, "He doesn't understand that you're half El Salvadorian, and he just wants to be mean. I said, is he trying to hit you or trying to hurt you in any way? And he said, no, he's just being mean to me. And I said, okay, he's being mean to you. And every time he would come home and say somebody was bullying him, I'd ask him what the situation was, what happened. And we would discuss it. And there was one time when I did go up to the school and I said, look, this same child, because it was one in particular person wouldn't leave CJ alone. I said, this same child is causing problems. I said, CJ feels like he's being bullied, and whether it's actual bullying or not bullying, he shouldn't have to feel that way. The school should step in and do something about the situation because it's close enough to bullying that it should be stopped. Well, CJ didn't ever come home and say that the kid was bullying him anymore. And when we got here and he was in middle school, he said that somebody that he thought was a friend was actually taking him down the wrong path. And they got into stealing and stuff like that. And we had a big blowout here in our house talking to CJ about it. And he said he didn't want to be part of this family anymore because he would rather be with his friends. And it didn't work out. That didn't work out very well. But as you can see, CJ stayed with us. His friend he went so far down the wrong side of the road that he's in juvie right now. And well, he may not be. If he turned 18, he probably got out of juvie. But, and I'm not going to mention his crimes because that's not my place to say. But I'm thankful that CJ's didn't keep his friendship with that child. So anyway, about bullying, I've got four not very long videos. And this first one is really cute, but it's really powerful. And what makes it cute is that it's kind of a cartoon image picture, like crayon drawings or something. Let's look at it. It's called The Psychology of a Child Who Got Bullied. And it explains what happens. And this is from The Shifting Mind. And I don't know who they are, but let's give them a thumbs up. I have watched all of these videos today, so we're not going into this blind. But
perhaps a little unsure of where they fit in the world. At home, love feels conditional. Their parents are often distracted, preoccupied, or emotionally unavailable. The child learns early that affection must be earned, through achievement, obedience, or silence. Neglect doesn't always mean absence. Sometimes it means growing up in a house full of noise where no one truly listens.
That's what I felt like when I was growing up. My parents didn't listen to me. And I felt like I didn't matter.
But is deprived of consistent warmth and validation, they begin to look outward for what they can't find within their own walls. Approval becomes something they chase in teachers, friends, and anyone who might notice them. But the world outside these walls can be harsh. Other children can sense vulnerability, even when it isn't spoken aloud. The eagerness to please, the constant self-correction, the way the child apologizes too quickly, all of it becomes a quiet signal to those who will take advantage. A child who grows up receiving too little love learns to adapt to it. They don't choose it. They adjust around it. In a world where affection is scarce, they learn to survive on fragments. This makes them vulnerable to those who seek control. They start to believe that staying small, invisible, or compliant might keep them safe. But beneath that quiet surface, something deeper begins to take shape. A complex psychology built entirely around survival. At school, this inner pattern starts to show in everyday behavior. The child who longs for approval begins to give things away: their snacks, their lunch money, even their homework. It's not generosity in the usual sense, it's survival. They've learned that kindness can sometimes buy moments of acceptance, even if it's only temporary. But this need to be liked is something other children can sense. They notice the one who says yes too quickly, who never stands up for themselves, who tries too hard to please. And for some, that becomes an invitation, a sign that this is someone they can take advantage of. So the bullied child becomes trapped in a painful loop. The more they give, the less they are respected. Their kindness doesn't protect them, it exposes them. What they hoped would make them liked instead makes them a target. And slowly they begin to learn that affection and exploitation can look very similar. When thinking about survival, we often think of the fight or flight response, but in psychology there's another survival strategy, one that hides in plain sight. It's called the fawning response, and it's rooted in the need to stay safe through pleasing others. Instead of fighting back or running away, the child adapts. They read the moods of the people around them, anticipate what's expected, and try to become whatever will keep the peace. It's a quiet, invisible form of survival, built on the hope that if they can make others happy, they won't be hurt or rejected. For a bullied child, fawning can look like constant people-pleasing, apologizing too much, doing favors they don't want to do, laughing along with jokes that sting. They learn to ignore their own feelings to fit in, to make themselves smaller so others will stop seeing them as a target. But this way of coping comes at a cost. Over time, the child loses touch with what they really think or need. Their sense of self becomes built around keeping others comfortable, even if that means never feeling safe themselves. The bullied child learns to smile when they want to cry and to say yes when they want to say no. They believe that if they can just stay agreeable, maybe they'll finally be accepted. But to other children, this isn't seen as kindness, it's seen as weakness. And once that pattern begins, it's hard to escape. The more they try to please, the less they are respected.
And that can even go into adulthood. As an adult, you want to have friends because we're all adults now. We're not going to be bullying each other. But the child that was bullied can often try to do so much for other people just to get them to like them that they end up resenting themselves, because maybe your next door neighbor wants you to take them to the grocery store. And you think, okay, yeah, I can do that, no problem. Well, then the next time they want to go to the grocery store, they want you to take them to the grocery store. And the next door neighbor gets to where they expect, or make you feel like they expect you to drop everything, no matter what. If they call, you drop everything and go take care of their needs. And some people do that. I mean, I've seen it happen just in order to have a friend, which really isn't a friend, but just to have somebody to talk to have adult conversation. They're going to be happy to take the neighbor to the store, no matter what they're doing. If they got supper cooking, they'll turn the stove off and finish it when they get home. And if they're in the middle of cleaning out the cabinets, they'll stop, leave the mess in the middle of their own kitchen floor or whatever room, go take care of what the neighbor needs, and then come back and hopefully get back to what they're doing today. If not, they've got this big mess overnight, that unless they can't go to bed with the mess, and then they're up all night, and then they got to do their job or whatever they got to do the next day. I've seen it. I've seen the pattern. I've seen it happen.
But this behavior doesn't start in the playground. It starts at home, when a child grows up being ignored, dismissed, or only noticed when they've done something wrong. They begin to equate love with conditions. They learn that being quiet keeps the peace, that being helpful earns brief attention, and that being themselves rarely brings comfort. So the child carries this emotional training into school.
And then on the other hand, this is all true. I believe what he's saying. But on the other hand, you've got the children who are basically ignored by their parents, or their parents have a set routine and the kid has to follow the routine, and the only time the child gets attention from their parents is when they've done something wrong. Then the child learns that even negative attention is attention. So they're going to do something else wrong just to get attention. Then they'll do something else wrong just to get attention. And then that's going to slip out of the house and it's going to go into the school. And then they're going to do something wrong, such as becoming a bully just to get attention. I learned this in sociology and psychology both. They talked about it on different aspects in both classes. And it's a way of, negative attention is still attention. It might not be the attention that we want or that we're seeking, but it's attention. And especially if you've got a kind of parent that doesn't intend to ignore their child except for when they do something wrong, and then when their child gets in trouble, the parent feels bad, and they give the child a hug and say, "I love you," and everything's all good. The child got his love. He got his hug and his "I love you." He had to get in trouble to get it, but he got what he wanted. He got the love he was looking for. So, I mean, it's a vicious cycle. It is a vicious cycle.
They've learned that safety depends on keeping others happy, that approval must be earned, and that being easy to love means never causing trouble. When that same pattern plays out with their peers, it leads them straight into the role of the bullied child. Each rejection reinforces what they already fear, that they are not enough, and when they return home to more silence or indifference, it confirms it. The neglect that started everything now deepens the wound. They start to believe that if they can't be loved at home and they can't be accepted at school, then maybe they don't deserve love at all. Bullying doesn't always take the same form. Sometimes it looks like laughter, sharp, exaggerated, and directed at one person. Sometimes it's the way a child is deliberately excluded, made to feel invisible while everyone else watches. Or it's the kind of cruelty that comes disguised as acceptance, where they're briefly invited into the group, only to be pushed back out again for amusement. These moments are confusing for the bullied child. They cling to the brief seconds of belonging, hoping that this time it might last. When the same people who mock them also offer approval, it creates a painful emotional loop, one that mirrors the inconsistency they already know from home. Love and rejection start to feel intertwined, almost inseparable. So they keep trying. They laugh along when they're the joke. They apologize when they've done nothing wrong. They take the blame just to keep the peace. The group begins to notice how easily this child yields to pressure, and the child learns that approval, no matter how fragile, is worth almost anything. Over time, this pattern shapes how they see themselves and others. Affection begins to feel unstable, something that can vanish at any moment. And even years later, they may still find themselves drawn to people who make them feel the same way. Needed 1 minute, dismissed the next. When a child grows up constantly people-pleasing, their nervous system becomes wired around other people's approval. They start to measure their worth through the reactions of others. A glance, a tone of voice, a smile that means they're safe for another moment. This is what psychologists call external self-worth. It's fragile because it depends entirely on what others think, not on what the child feels or believes about themselves. Bullied children rarely fight back, not because they don't want to, but because they've learned that resistance makes things worse. This is known as learned helplessness, when someone stops trying to change their situation because every attempt has failed before. For them, silence feels safer than confrontation. Compliance becomes a survival skill. Over time, they begin to hide their true self, the parts of them that are bold, curious, or outspoken, because those are the traits that once drew punishment. They learn to wear a mask of constant agreeableness, hoping it will protect them from rejection. But the cost of that protection is authenticity. They forget what it feels like to express themselves freely. Inside, they carry a quiet grief, the loss of who they might have been if the world had felt safe enough to be themselves. When psychologists study children who were bullied, the same long-term effects appear again and again. Many grow up with low self-esteem, struggling to believe they are worthy of love or respect. They become hyper-aware of relationships, constantly analyzing what others think or feel about them. Even small changes in tone or silence can trigger anxiety. They often find it hard to say no. Setting boundaries feels selfish, even though it's simply healthy. Their sense of safety depends on keeping everyone else happy. For some, this also turns into perfectionism. After years of rejection, they develop the belief that if they can just be flawless, never make mistakes, never upset anyone, maybe then they'll finally be loved.
And that's where you get the high school quarterback who is a straight A honor roll student who is on the wrestling team, and he's probably an only child, and he's an overachiever. Graduates top of his class just because he wants his parents to notice him, and he wants to make his parents. Dad's into sports, so he's going to go into all the sports. Mom's into who knows what. Let's just say that she's into music, so they go into choir class or something like that, and they become a great person in vocal music. But after high school, where are you going to go with it? They're going to college on their football scholarship because they were all-star quarterback or whatever, or all-state wrestler or whatever. It's because they're seeking the approval of their parents. That show, The Breakfast Club, that I don't know if anybody watched it, but it had Molly Ringwald and some other really good actors in there. And they spend a Saturday in school detention. And in the beginning, when the parents are dropping the kids off, you can see, the entitled one, which was Molly Ringwald. Her mom said she was grounded. Her dad would let her go to the party or whatever that night. The one, his thing in the beginning was that his parents didn't want him to blow his ride to his, because he was an all-state wrestler or whatever. Didn't want him to blow his ride to the state championships, but in true reality, he was in trouble because he had duct taped another wrestler's bum cheeks together. And when they removed the tape, it took some skin, and the kid's going to have scars on his bum. And then one of them, we never did figure out why the one girl was there, other than she was like, she carried everything with her like she was a runaway. She just didn't care. She had nothing better to do on a Saturday, And then the one kid, he felt so hopeless that he brought a starter pistol to school, and it fell off the shelf in his locker, and it went off in his locker. And then you had the school bully, the school bad kid, that he had gotten in trouble. And even there, he was back talking the guy that was over the detention. And he ended up getting himself 10 more Saturdays, And at the end of it, they realized that they all had the same story, but it was different. They were all being affected the same way at their at-home life. Their at-home life was not what they thought it should be, and they were seeking approval from somewhere else. And it's just that's the way this situation makes me feel.
But perfectionism doesn't bring peace. it only deepens the exhaustion. It keeps them chasing approval they should never have had to earn in the first place. So what happens when this child becomes an adult? The bullied child grows into an adult who still carries the same quiet fear. If I stop trying so hard, people will leave. The effects don't simply disappear with age, they follow quietly, like a shadow. The same patterns that once kept them safe in childhood now shape how they move through the world. As adults, they often feel anxious, not always outwardly, but in the constant self-monitoring that runs in the background of their minds. Just as they once offered their lunch at school, they now offer their time, their energy, and their emotional labor. They say yes when they're already exhausted. They apologize when nothing is their fault. They help others before helping themselves. In friendships and relationships, they remain the agreeable one, the listener, the fixer, the one who smooths things over. Their kindness is genuine, but it's also driven by fear. Fear of conflict, fear of rejection, fear that being loved is conditional. They measure safety not by how they feel, but by how comfortable everyone else seems to be around them. Over time, this can leave them feeling invisible all over again. They give endlessly, but few people truly see them. The child who once tried to earn affection has grown into an adult who still believes love must be earned, through effort, through sacrifice, through never asking for too much. One of the deepest effects of bullying and neglect is the loss of authenticity. When you grow up constantly adjusting yourself to stay safe, you start to lose touch with who you really are. The child who learned to read every expression, to say what others wanted to hear, grows into an adult who struggles to know their own mind. They've spent so long trying to avoid rejection that honesty feels dangerous. Even small decisions, what they want to eat, what they enjoy, what they believe, can be clouded by the question, will this make someone upset with me? So instead of being themselves, they perform versions of who they think they need to be. Versions that are polite, helpful, easy to like, but rarely real. Authenticity requires safety, and many bullied children never had that. They learned that being authentic meant being mocked, ignored, or punished. So they hide behind masks of competence or kindness, keeping their true thoughts and emotions tucked away where no one can use them against them. The tragedy is that this constant self-editing doesn't protect them. It only keeps them lonely. They may have friends, partners, even families, but deep down they still feel unseen because they've never been able to show who they really are. And beneath the surface of people-pleasing, there's often something deeper, anger. But it's not the kind that lashes out. It's the kind that turns inward. For a bullied child, open anger was rarely safe. Expressing pain or frustration only made things worse. At home, it was ignored or dismissed. At school, it invited more ridicule. So they learned to swallow it, to push it down, bury it under smiles, and pretend it wasn't there. But anger doesn't disappear just because it's hidden. It transforms. Over time, it becomes self-directed, turning into harsh self-criticism, perfectionism, or a quiet kind of self-hatred. The child begins to believe that they were the reason they were mistreated, that if they had been stronger, smarter, louder, or different, maybe they would have been loved. As adults, this can show up as an endless internal battle. They may punish themselves for mistakes, overthink every word they say, or feel guilt simply for existing. It's as if the part of them that once wanted to fight back now fights them instead. This buried rage isn't weakness. It's evidence of everything they had to suppress to survive. The anger was never the problem, the lack of safety was, and until it's acknowledged, it keeps them locked in the same cycle, protecting others' comfort while quietly destroying their own. So how does someone begin to heal from this?
One way, I don't know, I don't remember exactly what this illustrator is going to say, but one way is to seek counseling because your counselor is supposed to be able to help you work through these situations. I've tried to go to counseling over the way I was growing up and the way I want to be as an adult, even though I'm almost 60. And every time I'd start to go to a counselor, I would get this overwhelming sense of, why do I want to pay $165 a week for somebody just to have somebody to talk to? She wasn't my true friend. She couldn't be my true friend because it would have broke barriers within the legalness of her job. I know that because I went to school for that. I have my degree in social work. So basically, and it got to the point where our insurance wouldn't cover it anymore. So I said, I can't afford this every week. I can't afford it. So I just quit going. It wasn't doing me any good anyway. All I was doing was going and talking about what was bothering me. It wasn't really, they say talking about it gets it off your chest, but really it doesn't, because you scoop it all up and you take it back with you. And it's still there next week when you go talk to them about the exact same thing you talked to them about last week. Only during the last week, since you last seen them, more junk has happened and you have more to talk about. And the hour only lasts an hour, so you can't go over everything every single time.
The first step isn't about changing who they are. It's about turning inward and finally facing the parts of themselves they've spent years avoiding. For many, healing begins when they stop searching for approval and start asking a different question. What do I actually feel? The process is uncomfortable at first. When you've spent your whole life focused on others, looking inward feels unnatural, even selfish. But this is where the real work begins. They have to meet their shadow, the collection of feelings they were never allowed to express. The anger, the grief, the shame, the fear of being unwanted. These emotions aren't signs of weakness. They're evidence of everything the person had to suppress to survive. Facing the shadow isn't about blaming others. It's about acknowledging it with compassion. And slowly, the nervous system begins to rewire. Safety stops depending on other people's reactions and starts coming from within. The same sensitivity that once led to pain can finally become strength, empathy, insight, and depth, once it's no longer used as a shield. Healing in the end is not about becoming someone new. It's about coming home to the self that was buried beneath years of trying to be enough. The bullied child never truly disappears. They live inside the adult, still hoping to be seen and accepted. But healing means letting that child know they don't have to earn love anymore, that their worth was never something other people had the power to decide. The road back to the self is slow, and it requires patience. It means learning to hold your own pain without shame, and to speak to yourself with the same kindness you once gave to everyone else. Over time, the need to please softens. The masks fall away. What remains is someone real, imperfect but whole. The psychology of the bullied child is not just a story of pain, but of survival. Because beneath all the people-pleasing, all the fear and self-doubt, there is something unbroken. The quiet strength of someone who still believes in connection, even after being hurt by it. And that belief, once turned inward, becomes the foundation of healing. Imagine a child,
Whoop.
quiet.
And on top of that, once that person finds who would become their spouse, if they have the right spouse, that spouse will help uncover that, because they're the person, the bullied person is the one that says, I'm sorry, every time something doesn't seem right. They're, if they tried to cook supper and they burnt something, they start crying, I'm sorry. If they've got the right partner or spouse or whatever, that spouse is going to understand. People make mistakes, and that spouse is not going to get mad about it. They're going to say, okay, so this is not able to be ate. Let's go to McDonald's. No harm done. We'll clean up the mess when we get home. When you got the right spouse will help you come out of your shell if you're in a shell, and will help you bring yourself. And one thing my husband always says, stop apologizing. I think for the first 5 years we were married, he was like, stop apologizing. Stop apologizing. We've been married almost 15 years now. Well, yeah, in December it was 15 years. So, and I heard stop apologizing more times than I want to admit, but we've been best friends all of our lives. So, and he always had my back. Okay, so next it's like, what's it like to be bullied? There are people out there that have never been bullied. And I thank the Lord that they were blessed with that. So this lady, she was bullied for her ethnicity. And that's just not right. She was probably born right here in the United States.
I was 12 years old.
I was 13 years old.
I was 12 years old.
I was 13 years old when I was bullied.
When I was bullied, there were confrontations in hallways.
It was pretty much directly face-to-face verbal contact.
I was being called a name from my so-called friends.
Some person that I don't know slammed my head into the locker and called me a chink. And they just walked away.
I was dealing with a lot of, acne problems. This guy, he would just call me pizza face in front of people.
I was just walking through the cafeteria and someone called me a faggot. It was kind of like my whole body had chills and I didn't know what to do.
They all giggled and laughed, and it actually was a word in Cantonese, and I don't speak Cantonese. I think now I would say like "fei mui." What they were calling me was little fat girl.
This kid turned around to me with a Sharpie marker, and for all the classmates to hear, and it said, "Hey Zach, bend over. I want to play connect the dots with your face."
I was so embarrassed when it happened. Bullies made me feel so bad about my ethnicity. Like, I really did internalize that.
It made me feel like I wasn't as good as anybody else.
I didn't really know what is friendship if the people that you think you're close to are laughing at you.
It was something that was really hard.
Now you can't look at this young man and tell what his lifestyle choice is. Why would somebody call somebody that? That just doesn't make sense to me.
Heartbreaking for my mom to see. I remember she just always looked so sad for me because I was just being myself, and me being myself meant that I was being bullied.
You just have this fear in middle school, in high school, that you're going to be called that for the rest of your life.
Now it's a word that I look back on and I use it to see how far I've come.
I realized that this is not who I am. I haven't been that since I was, 13, 14 years old.
No matter what people think, I can accomplish anything that I want. I was doing great things. I had great friends, a great family.
I love my life, and I am more than just a little fat girl.
That word does not define me. It never did define me. I'm so much more as a person.
I could be whoever I wanted to be, and I was extremely proud of being Asian.
I am great. I am happy. I am anything that I want to be.
There's going to be a time where you realize that the thing that people target you for is actually your greatest asset.
I recommend building a support system and help each other learn that you are more than those words.
If you be yourself and you grow up to be who you want to be, you're going to be a great person no matter what.
You are so much more than any of the words that anyone could say to you.
That's powerful. That's powerful. And they're right. I'm sorry, she wanted to talk before I give her permission. Sometimes these things autoplay. It's no big deal. Okay. So this one says, former bullies explain why they did it and why they finally stopped. I don't know what happens in between. We'll find out. But this is from WMUR TV. And I'm not sure if this is the one where there's one of them where they were talking to Dr. Phil about it. But I don't know if this is it.
It's big. The candor was stunning.
I pick on the oddball kid.
James asked us to disguise him and keep his last name and hometown out of the story, but was grateful for the chance to get some things off his chest.
I always think back on them situations and them people, and I always wish there was a way that I could make them realize I felt bad about what I've done.
It's a common theme on both sides of the equation. Many victims of bullies can recall everything about their attacker and the attacks. And the admitted bullies we talked with have crystal clear memories as well.
I remember picking on a kid that was really big, and he was a nice kid. I had no reason to do that. I didn't even know the kid really, you know, just calling him names and stuff. And I hurt his feelings, you know. And
another theme, having an audience.
I don't know why I did it. Probably just to show off with my friends and stuff, I guess would be more of it. There was usually other kids around. I never did it by myself. There was always somebody else involved.
I waited for her to like almost enter my day so I could just kind of keep it rolling.
Colleen Carlson is an open book about her bullying ways as a child.
I made her life like a living hell.
Why? Why do bullies do what they do? The answer often starts at home. Colleen says she was bullied by her father. He was an alcoholic, and she bottled it all up inside, had no one to talk to.
I would let out my aggressions on other kids, and well, here's this, you know, chosen child that I deemed as weaker, and sure enough, she was treated by me the same miserable way I was treated by my father.
Carlson is a 6th grade teacher now and uses her bullying story as a catalyst for a unit on the topic every year.
See, now she, as an adult, realized what she did. I hope she wouldn't apologize to the girl and tried to get to know the girl as a real person. I hope that. And the fact that she's using what she did wrong as a way to teach other people that are the age she was at the time that this was happening, she's teaching them not to make the mistakes that she made. And she's using herself as an example.
The approach, unconventional, eyebrow raising, and powerful.
I go through details about the things I did to her, cleaning the language up a little bit. I, you know, tell them things I said, and then I weave in, you know, the home life, because a lot of our population has that rough home life, and I need them to connect to that.
The turning point came after a guidance counselor in the 8th grade started a support group for children of alcoholics. As a victim herself, she finally had an outlet. It was almost like a switch went off.
I remember like it was yesterday, the day I defended this same girl on the bus.
And then the reinforcement. The principal heard about the bus incident and called her to the office, applauding her kindness and courage.
It was almost like another factor. Like, okay, I'm going to treat this girl respectfully because, well, she deserves it. And, well, I don't want to disappoint the principal.
As a former bully, Ms. Carlson is vigilant about bullying behavior in her school. She sets the tone on day one. Demeaning comments, shut down. Belly laughs at another's expense, no go. And she keeps a special eye out for students who are withdrawn, slumped shoulders, sullen. Parents, she says, are a crucial part of the solution.
It's not just about parents saying, you know, it's not right to bully. You know, you got to show them.
For Project Community, Amy Covino, WMUR News 9.
That, to me, is awesome. That she realized her mistake. She learned from her mistake. And the school realized enough to realize that there needed to be a support group for students like her who were not living in the best home life situation. That's what I want this channel to turn into. I want it to turn into a support group for no matter what a person's issue is. It's not going to hurt my feelings. Whatever you're going through, somebody else out there. And I can say in YouTube land, because 99.9% of the people in the world have YouTube or access to it. And if you know a subject that you want me to research and we can talk about it, I want to know, I want to be able to research it and find out a little bit more about it, because I can't sit here and talk about it if I've never heard of the situation. And I would like to be able to find videos to show that there are other people going through what you're going through, no matter what it is. Just shoot me an email. I'll toss my email in here while we're listening to Dr. Phil. And this is only like a 3-minute thing of Dr. Phil. It's not going to be an hour-long show like the ones I did last night. So, oops, I got to bring it to stage. I don't know why I didn't, because I was running my big old fat mouth. Okay. All right. Let's give Dr. Phil a thumbs up, because I do like Dr. Phil. And I've already, thumbs up there. Okay. Let's back it up, because he starts right in it.
You said somebody has to tell people they're ugly.
Yeah.
How is that your job?
I mean, it's not, but I'm not going to lie to somebody.
How about me?
No, she didn't.
Am I ugly?
Do I have to answer that?
Yeah.
Don't lie.
Yeah.
What's ugly about me?
You're just older
Yeah.
and less attractive.
I'm bald.
Yeah, you're bald too.
I'm bald
That
and I'm
adds to
old.
it.
I got wrinkles like
Yeah,
around
all
my
of that.
eyes and stuff.
You know,
I don't think I'm ugly.
I think everyone is entitled to their own opinion.
Let's assume you're right. So you've now told me that. What do I do with that information?
Think about it, move on.
So you're not trying to help anybody. You're not trying to,
No,
you're
not really.
just running your mouth.
Yeah, I am.
Do you ever consider how it might make the other person feel?
I don't.
You're telling me that you never consider the impact of what you say.
No, I do not.
Is that because you're not very smart? Or
I'm very smart.
But if you were like really smart, then you would understand
Like
that
you?
everything has an impact, that everything you say, good or bad.
I know it does, but I think everyone says whatever they want to say.
I have this theory that people that do what you do are playing a game. And the game is get them before they get me. I don't care if you don't like me, because I don't like you. You can't reject me because I reject you. And that way, you're always on the attack. You tell people things that are hurtful for a reason.
I really don't have a motive.
It's not true.
Everyone hurts every.
This lady right here, I would like to find this full episode so I can see what the conversation between her and Dr. Phil is, because she's a sassy pants. She looks like, my mom would say, somebody needs to take you down a few notches.
People hurt me. People do things to me. I'm going to do it back.
What if they weren't going to get you at all? What if they were going to become a loyal friend and supporter that would have your back for the rest of your life? But you went zero to bitch on them like that, so you ran them off and missed a good friend.
I think that's where my observing
comes in handy.
Yeah, I watch people's actions. I watch what they say. I'll know if I like you or not.
Well, that just told me something really important about you, so that's helpful to me. I didn't realize how scared you were. Because you can hide it for a while because you kind of have a confident air and you're attractive and all, but I didn't realize how afraid you were. Because you don't have the guts to see if somebody would like you. You don't have the guts to see if somebody would accept you and befriend you and have your back.
I don't think I'm scared at all.
I think you're dead wrong about being mean to people and hurting people, but I try to find a way to convey that to you without hurting your feelings. Because I don't want to do to you what you do to other people. Do you think I've been disrespectful to you today?
No.
I've tried to tell you what I think without hurting your feelings. It's just one way of doing things.
Boom! Right across the face. It's just one way of doing things. So basically, what I've interpreted. I can't say what you've interpreted. I'd like to know. But what I've interpreted is, well, from this last little clip, just because you don't know somebody doesn't give you the right to be ugly. We should get to know the person. If the person truly can find a reason not to like you, then stay away from them. You don't have to be mean and hateful to them. But if 9 times out of 10, if you're nice to somebody, they'll be nice back. Have you ever gone to the Walmarts or whatever, and you see a young child, 10, 11 years old, 8 years old, whatever, holding the door open for somebody? And even full-grown adults will say, thank you. But then you'll get that one that wants to be ugly and take his glory away from him and take the door away from him and say, I got it. The little kid doesn't appear. Thank you. Thank you. The little kid doesn't appear to let it bother him. He just runs off to be with his parents or whatever. But who's to say that deep down inside, because the man that took the door away from the little kid and said, I got it, he didn't say thank you to the little kid. But 5 other people that walked in front did. I know the situation. I've been there. I've seen it. I was one of those that said thank you. My son. Okay. I'm interested to find out. I'm eager to search it up and see what we're going to talk about. That makes me happy. And I forgot what I was going to say. But I have asked somebody, would you like me to take the door so you can go? And they said, no, I got it. I don't push them away. I'm like, now I'm not perfect. Don't get me wrong. I make mistakes. But he was happy with what he was doing. He was doing something really nice. I offered to let him go be with his family. His family was politely standing inside waiting. They didn't get too far away. They could see him at all times. And when he said, no, I got it, I let him keep his glory. I tapped him on the shoulder and I said, thank you. You're a gentleman. And I went on. And not to mention, I'm one of those people that I can see if I see somebody in military uniform, not just in camo, okay? You can tell the difference between camo and military camo. And if I see somebody in military dress, it will almost choke me up every time. But I thank them for their service. I'll thank a police officer for his service. That don't choke me up. Now, my dad was a police officer, but he still served to protect. My dad was also a Navy officer. My older brother was in the Navy. My younger brother was in the Navy. No, my older brother was in the Army and then went to the Navy in reserves. Then my younger brother was in the Army. And then my grandpa before that was in the Navy, and my husband was in the Army twice. He went in the Army and he finished his tour duty, and he come home and he got married. And when his children were born or whatever, I don't know exactly when it happened. I wasn't in the situation. But he went back into the military. And it was before his children were born, because his oldest daughter was born in Germany. She's an American citizen, but she was born in Germany. So when he got married, he went back into the service to support his wife. And then when he came out of the service, they come back to stateside. He got out of the service, and then his second child was born, his second daughter, and he went to drive in a truck, and that's what he is. He's 35 years later, 40 years later, he's still a truck driver. So it hasn't been consecutive. He's had other jobs. He's had a couple of other jobs. He's been a forklift driver, and he worked for the railroad for a little while, but he always goes back to driving a truck because that's what he likes to do. He likes being alone in the truck. Even when he's home, a lot of times he'll go down to his office, and he doesn't mean to do it. I know he doesn't. But he'll get to working on something on his computer, and we'll have to hunt him down. We have to go down there and say, we want to do this. Do you want to get up and come do this with us? Yeah, just a minute. And a half an hour later, we come back down. Are you going to come? Do I need to help you get your clothes out of the closet? You know, but that's just him. He's used to being by himself. We're happily married. Don't get me wrong. We have a wonderful relationship. We talk every day, and not every day. About once a month, he'll forget to call. It's usually during one of his 34-hour restarts where he's laying in the back bunk after he's gone on his bike ride or whatever he's done. He's laying in the back bunk. Either he's editing a video for his channel that he's doing or whatever, or he's watching videos on YouTube or Netflix or something, and he just forgets to call. And the next day I'll call him and I'll say, I didn't talk to you. Oh, I didn't get to talk to you yesterday. I called. No, you didn't. So, you know, and then he apologizes. And then if I cook something new, like tonight I made smashed tacos. They're awesome. They're awesome. You make your taco meat in the pan, in the bowl. Mix it up in the bowl with your egg and your taco seasoning. And if you want onions, put onions in it, okay? Then you take your tortilla and you lay it out and you spread the taco meat really thin all the way out to the edge of the tortilla. And then you put the tortilla on the griddle or a cast iron pan or whatever you've got that you can cook a little bit of tortilla. And you brown the outside of the tortilla. When the meat starts, you can see the grease start forming on the meat. You know, you can tell it's starting to cook from underneath. You flip it over, the whole thing, and you smash it with your spatula. And you cook it, 3-4 minutes. And that's all it takes to cook that meat all the way through. Then you flip it back to the top, and you can sprinkle your cheese on it then if you want to. Or you can put it in a taco stand so that it folds the flour tortilla. And then you can put all your toppings inside of it. And when you're eating it over your paper plate, your taco meat and all that stuff's not going to run out, not going to fall out. You can eat it. Now, if you get the big tacos that make like burritos, one of them will fill you up. My son's an eater. He asked for 2. I made him 2. But he could only eat 1. And his was just meat and cheese with bacon bits on it. And he said, I'm going to put the other one in the refrigerator and have it for lunch tomorrow. So, and then he went to work and he was telling his boss about it. And then he said, Send me a picture of them taco things you made for supper. So I think that was one that's going to stay on our keeper list here. So, and they're called smashed. I think I can pull up a picture of it. Hold on, I'll show you. Okay, this is what it looks like on the plate. Doesn't that look so yummy? That's got cheese and lettuce and sour cream in it. But I dropped one piece of lettuce out of it during eating the whole thing. And your hands don't get all greasy or nothing like that. They're delicious. I love them. So, and then I had leftover taco meat that I made in taco patties. So tomorrow night we'll each have a taco burger for supper. So there's 2 meals in one out of one thing of taco meat. All right. Thanks for being here. Like I said, if you know something you want mean ill. That's supposed to say email. Dyslexia got me there. Okay. Like I said, if you know something you'd like to talk about, just email me and I'll do some research on it. And then tomorrow night we'll discuss it. And if you'd like to come up on stage, I can bring you up on stage and you can talk. Or if you just want to, like H. Davis likes, he just messages me and tells me what's safe to say. So, okay. So do something nice for someone, even if it's just be the reason that they smile today. And let's talk about it. Good night.